All right, everyone. It's about time to bring it back in. Hey, listen, I am so excited to be with you. I hardly ever get to make it in here, but I feel privileged that I'm getting to kick off this new study and this new rhythm of discipleship that ties family ministry together. So, hey, as we start, I wanted to just hear a little bit about how you answered that opening question. If anybody would, you just yell out who came to your mind when you thought about great leaders in your life and why. Paul Lake? Is he in here? Where is Paul? Oh, he's probably serving. So why did he come to your mind? But, okay, everyone in here who knows Paul Lake knows exactly what that means. But what about the people who don't know him? Mm. Paul is serious about doing ministry with no pretense, and you're exactly right. He's leaving a legacy. He's impacted my life and many of the lives surrounding me. Who else? What about one more? Leading through service. That's going to get at the heart of what we're looking at this morning. When I thought back to that opening question, men and women came to my mind, my parents, my mentors, but my brain didn't go to the most talented people that I've come in contact with. And it didn't go to the people who were the greatest communicators in my life or the most captivating personalities. When I think of the greatest leaders that I came in contact with, it was men and women who used their platform to care and serve those who they were leading. And it was also people that I sensed were in the boat with me. People who weren't just far off and uninvolved in what I was facing. It was people who made their way to me. If I was suffering, they were suffering beside me. In the Chronicles of Narnia, there's a book called The Horse and His Boy, and there's this. The plot basically ends with a missing king, a missing heir to the throne being found. And there's a boy who finds out that he doesn't have to be king anymore, and he's like, "Yay! I don't have to be king. Princes have all the fun." And then his father, who is the king, says this, "And that's truer than thy brother knows, Kor. For this is what it means to be a king, to be first in every desperate attack and last in every desperate retreat. And when there's hunger in the land, as must be now and then in bad years, to wear finer clothes and laugh louder over a scantier meal than any man in your land." It's funny because Narnia, in this little moment, disciples us in what it means to lead. It means that we're the first ones in, the last ones out, laughing the loudest. Great leadership is one that goes in the trenches and loves the lowest and serves others in a way that reflects Jesus Christ. The best leaders in my life, best leaders I encountered were men and women who were involved. If we were losing sleep, they were losing sleep. They understood themselves as servants to those that they led. They didn't understand themselves to be served by those under them. I was blessed to serve under men and women who said, "No one is above the mop." Maybe you've heard a phrase like that. Or, if you're not willing to serve, you're not fit to lead. I was forged by men and women who took on that mentality. And what we're really talking about here is a servant leadership instead of a self-centered leadership. We all know in here that leadership can be used to further our own personal advancement or our own accommodation. It's just an easy avenue to get what we want. We all know that there's freedoms and privileges that come with leadership, and so it's easy for us to just avail ourselves of what we can get out of it. And it's also a platform for influence. And so whether we go the servant leader model or the self-serving model, it's going to influence those who are under our leadership. A few years ago, there was a podcast that came out about a toxic ministry, and on the top of it, it had an extremely toxic leader. This is a quote from this pastor of a like-minded church. He said this: "There's a pile of dead bodies behind the church bus, and by God's grace, it'll be a mountain by the time we're done. You either get on the bus or you get run over by the bus. Those are the options. The bus ain't going to stop. We're just going to keep moving forward." That was terrifying because not only was it an indication of his heart that said, hey, I'm doing my thing and you can get on board or not. Not only was it that, but that was a big influencer for this church. You listen to this podcast and you hear stories of members who admit that they were influenced and shaped by that toxic leadership. Not only do we see that the manner of our leadership is going to have an impact on others, it's going to be modeled, imitated, mimicked. We also see that it has the potential to divide and destroy, which is what happened to this ministry. And so what we see is that our leadership can be used as a way to reflect and image God, or it can be used for ourselves, and the results can be devastating. So as we turn to 1 Kings 12, we find ourselves right at the beginning of Israel's downward slope. We could describe Solomon's reign as Israel's heyday. They're on top of the world. The wisest king who has ever lived is on top, but then he makes a foolish, devastating decision. He binds himself to foreign women. He takes on wives, and then in doing that, he takes on their gods. And the result of his life is that his heart is divided before Yahweh. And so God determines that after Solomon, the kingdom is going to also be divided. So after Solomon, his son Rehoboam rules in his place, and we're going to read in this moment how self-centered leadership tears that kingdom apart. This is a moment where Rehoboam has an opportunity to do so much good. Like he has an opportunity to rewrite some of the wrongs of Solomon, but he's going to squander it in self-centered leadership. 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 1, Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. And as soon as Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, heard of it, for he was still in Egypt, where he had fled from King Solomon, then Jeroboam returned from Egypt. And they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the assembly of Israel came and said to Rehoboam, your father made our yoke heavy. Now, therefore, lighten the hard service of your father and this heavy yoke on us, and we will serve you. He said to them, go away for 3 days, then come to me again. So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam took counsel with the old men, who had stood before Solomon his father while he was yet alive, saying, how do you advise me to answer this people? And they said to him, if you will be a servant to this people today and serve them, and speak good words to them when you answer them, then they will be your servants forever. But he abandoned the counsel that the old men gave him and took counsel with the young men who had grown up with him and stood before him. And he said to them, what do you advise that we answer this people who have said to me, lighten the yoke that your father put on us? And the young men who had grown up with him said to him, thus shall you speak to this people who said to you, your father made our yoke heavy, but you lighten it for us. Thus shall you say to them, my little finger is thicker than my father's thighs. And now, whereas my father laid on you a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. Look down at verse 15. So the king did not listen to the people, for it was a turn of affairs brought about by the Lord that he might fulfill his word, which he spoke by Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. And when all Israel saw that the king did not listen to them, the people answered the king, what portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Look now to your own house, David. So Israel went to their tents, but Rehoboam reigned over the people of Israel who lived in the cities of Judah. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was taskmaster over the forced labor, and all Israel stoned him to death with stones. And King Rehoboam hurried to mount his chariot to flee Jerusalem. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. And when all Israel heard that Jeroboam had returned, they sent and called him to the assembly and made him king over all Israel. There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only. Okay, here's what we see first in the story. There's an incredible opportunity. Rehoboam can rewrite the story. He can right the wrongs of King Solomon. He has the opportunity to lead in a way that reflects the Lord. And to undergird that, he has a voice of wisdom that comes in. And the voice of the elders tell Rehoboam, if you lead out with care for these people, they're going to give you everything that they have. And his motivation here is not that he's going to manipulate them to get what he wants. He's not going to front care. He's going to give himself to a leadership that reflects how God leads his people. So the wise counsel that Rehoboam gets is to do what God does in his leadership. Rehoboam is challenged to serve the people of Israel like God serves them, but then there's a voice of folly that comes in. The young men say, hang on. This is actually a moment where you can show yourself strong. This is a moment where you can show yourself better, stronger, to be feared more than your father. And so this is the louder voice in his mind. It's the younger men that he grew up with. They tell him, you go out there and put fear in the hearts of the people, and you're going to get what you want out of them. So Rehoboam is in between the council that is saying, showcase your care, and the council that's saying, showcase your strength. And what we see is a devastating choice. Rehoboam seizes the moment to showcase his strength. He rejects the wisdom of the elders. The kingdom is divided and led to ruin. The northern tribes, they reject Rehoboam as king. The united monarchy comes to an end. There's all this conflict and strife that begins happening between the two groups. And not only this, but Jeroboam rises to power, and to keep his power, he basically institutes idolatry. He brings in God so that he can control the people and they will not turn away from him. And so what we have is this really poor advice that is just tipping the first domino that's going to lead both of the people groups into exile. Devastating consequences. I think that we have to stop here in the story and think about the counsel that we receive. Romans 15:4 says, what was written in former days was written for our instruction. And so I want to pause here and think about how counsel was received in this moment and how we should, this is an example of how we should not do the same. So I want you to discuss at your table this question: how can this situation we just read instruct us as we seek wise counsel? And I'll give you about 3 to 4 minutes. I'll be back in a moment to lead us.